I had them online before I dial up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. I had them online before I dial up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in. Don't you dare give up now. Ho believed in me, pull up through some bucks.
Comments Vice President Kamala Harris made about visiting the border or not visiting the border. It's being reported that officials are perplexed by Harris's comments during an NBC News interview with Lester Holt that was aired while she was in Guatemala chastising people not to come to the U.S. Harris oddly defended not yet visiting the U.S.-Mexico border as vice president because she was in charge of dealing with the, quote, root causes, end quote, of Central American migrants entering the U.S. That's what she said. She also said, we're going to the border. We've been to the border. That's what she said in the interview. But then Lester Holt said, you haven't been to the border, have not. And then Kamala Harris responded, and I haven't been to Europe. She was rolling her neck when she did it. She's going. She's been. She hasn't been. But then she hasn't been to Europe. Don't ask me what the heck any of that means because I don't know. I don't think she knew. And neither do a lot of people in the White House. And that's why they're perplexed. I'm perplexed. And now you are too. You're welcome. Actually, folks in the White House are more than perplexed. Some Biden allies and even some people close to Harris called the whole trip to Guatemala a disaster. Some in the administration were wondering why Harris seemed so ill-prepared to handle basic questions like, why haven't you been to the border? That Republicans have been asking for months. One longtime Biden ally is reported in The Hill as saying the trip was, quote, wasn't great and a little cringeworthy too. I don't know how they weren't preparing for these questions, end quote. And another ally was even more blunt, saying it was terrible. I don't know how else to say it. An unnamed Democratic strategist is reported to have said that Harris is going to be haunted by this trip and this issue for as long as she is in politics. I certainly hope so. Well, as you may not know, or maybe you do, I am an avid gardener. This year, we have converted our little postage stamp front lawn into a little raised bed garden with at least 20 different vegetable and fruit plants and are preparing a much larger raised bed to be filled with even more in our little backyard. I always think of doing this kind of personal gardening as relaxation because that's how I've approached it every year. It's my personal little hobby that makes me happy. It relaxes me. It brings me closer to nature, and it provides me with some fresh produce that I don't have to buy for a few months. Well, this year is very different because we put the first raised bed in the front yard. It's not only visible to all the neighbors, but it's also accessible to all. That's led to some pretty interesting interactions with neighbors who normally don't say boo to us and with folks just driving by. People have asked questions like, why are we taking up the lawn? Why do such a thing? To what have we planted? To how did we build our beds? And even asking to take pictures so that they can replicate our little urban garden in their yard. But this year, because of the way we built and designed the beds and cultivated the crops, we produced so much more produce that we were able to share vegetables for the first time in a long time. We used a grid system and a garden planner software to determine what we plant and where in the bed for maximum output. We didn't use weed-killing chemicals. We protected the seedlings with netting instead of bug-killing chemicals. I talk to the plants every day. I do. I absolutely do. They love it. And the result has been a garden more bountiful and lush than I have ever produced. And we've been able to share a lot of food and still have plenty left over for us to eat. Some friends sent us some great heirloom seeds too, like this amazing Russian variety tomato called the Paul Robeson. Yes, It's named in honor of that great man, which should grow to a large, robust fruit with deep maroon coloring and darker colored stripling. And dragon tongue bush beans, a lovely heirloom bean variety that's stripy, purpley, and supposed to be really sweet. And I can't wait for all of it to come in with some eggplant and green beans and squash so we can eat it, of course, but so we can share a lot of it and maybe expand this little operation. Believe it or not, our next door neighbor has offered her front lawn if we decide to expand. And that's when I started thinking about the importance of food sovereignty in the context of growing your own food, and not just the ability to do that physically, like have some land or a container with some dirt in it in a sunny spot to put some seeds in and grow them, but the ability to have access to seeds that are not chemically enhanced and controlled by big corporations that cost an arm and a leg to buy or that you have to buy every year. We should be able to share this knowledge, these skills, these materials, and the seeds needed to feed ourselves without corporate or government intervention and control. But you know that's not how it works. And it's even worse in developing countries. Self-determination is an issue for millions that goes right down to the ground under their feet and the seeds needed to put in that ground to feed people for their own self-determination. This is an issue that is bigger than a little garden in our front yard. Follow Luqman Nation on patreon.com/Luqman Nation for lots of great content.
So these are the greens that I just harvested from our raised beds that are out in the front yard. Right there, you can see them, the little mini tropical forest that we have. And what's in the bowl? We've got a little bit of kale that is left from some kale stalks that had bolted. The weeds were growing out of the top, so these are probably going to be a little bitter, because that's kind of what happens to vegetables, greens, when the weeds grow out of the top. That's called bolting, but that's okay. I'm going to throw them in there anyway. A couple of leaves from the broccoli plant that also bolted, a few leaves, and then we have these big, beautiful, and something has already taken a little bit of a nibble out of it, but that's okay. We've still got plenty of collards left, big old beautiful collard leaves. Lots of collard leaves in there, and we've got some bok choy, which is Chinese cabbage, and as you can see, this bok choy is also starting to bolt, so I definitely had to grab it, harvest it today. So and I can't forget this really pretty multicolored Swiss chard. Oh, let me slide it out of here so you can see the leaves. There you go. This is this really pretty Swiss chard, rainbow Swiss chard, different colors, a yellow and red with pretty green puffy leaves. So this is going to be a part of our dinner tonight. Let me pick up my cast-offs here. This is a pretty big bowl. I'm putting my feet here on the side of the bowl, just for scale, just so you can see how big the bowl is. All right, so that's a pretty big bowl of greens. These are the Tootsies. That's the bowl of greens. Interesting things about the harvesting of these vegetables and how you do it to keep these greens growing throughout the growing season. There we go. Yep, there we are. There we are. Yep, this is Jackie Luqmans.
And I'm Uncle Baba Luqmans.
And, you know, there was more to this video. Oh, here we go. Now it's acting right. This thing never wants to play right when we try to get it to play right. But I'm going to see if I can rewind it a little bit so you can see how we harvest our greens. And welcome to Dope Friday Date Night in Luqman Nation.
The most dangerous show on social media.
And
the greenest one, too.
And the greenest one. So, yeah, as usual,
that's the bowl of greens.
Thing is having issues. I don't know why this video never wants to play
These greens
smoothly.
Grown.
But anyway, what we thought we'd do, today was to just kind of highlight the kind of stuff that we like to do when we're not doing this, right? Like when we're not working, when we're not, doing some kind of activism, when we're not trying to get some rest, we're actually kind of messing around in the dirt.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So anyway, welcome to Dope Fridays, Luqman Nation.
Yep.
So we have, as you all know, we got after us the Last Dope Intellectual.
That's right. And then after the Last Dope Intellectual, we've got Renegade Culture at 9 o'clock.
Yep.
We're going to have to work something out with Kim Brown where we, so we all can watch Burn It Down with Kim Brown because we just realized that she airs at the same time.
It's a scheduling conflict.
Yeah, so we've got a scheduling conflict. We're going to work it out here in Black Power Media because, look, we're a team, we're a collective, and we want to make sure that everybody has access to everybody's amazing content. So I don't know whose time slot will change, but stay tuned as we kind of, smooth things out. Hope that you checked out Jared Ball's stream from this morning. It was really great. There's apparently another conversation that folks are going to have Tuesday about Michael Jackson and the sexual assault stuff. I don't know what goes on. But yeah, stay tuned. Obviously Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for the Remix Morning Show. And on Tuesday, on the Remix Morning Show, we're actually going to be continuing this conversation that you heard a little bit of from the monologue. That monologue is from my day job. I do a monologue every day on By Any Means Necessary on Radio Sputnik. They give me about 6-7 minutes to say what I want. So I talked a little bit about Kamala Harris and I talked a little bit about gardening because, like I was saying, this is not just a hobby. The ability to grow your own food is incredibly important.
Very important.
Here in the developed country, it can be a hobby, but there was a time when, my own family had to have a garden. To eat and a garden much bigger than the one I have. So the discussion about food sovereignty is really important. And we always think about food sovereignty from the context of like who controls the food that's in your grocery store. But really, the discussion around food sovereignty needs to start with who controls the seed.
Exactly. That's what we really have to talk about. And we know that, gardening has a long history in this country. We remember the victory gardens back in World War II when the government urged people to grow vegetables and stuff as part of a means of food production. The government was rationing everything. And so, they was like, well, if you want to offset the rationing, then grow a garden. We call it victory garden, And Black folks and indigenous people, I mean, we've always grown up on our own food. I came up with my grandmother having a garden in the back, and she used to make us go out there and pick the peas and Thank God I didn't have to shell them though. That was my sister's job. I just went out there and picked them. Thank God for that. But we got some peas coming up too. So
we do, and I did have to shell the peas. Me and my cousin. Whenever we stayed with our grandmother during the summer, we'd have to get up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning before the sun came up real hot and go out there and pick not just the peas, but the tomatoes and the greens and the green beans. And you had to shell those peas and string the string beans. And I was terrified of tomato worms and the cabbage worms. But, and I hated it. Oh, I hated it when I was a kid. But here I am, an adult, and excited about peas. And we drove up today, and it's a lot of rain today, big thunderstorm all day long, and we peek into the I peek into the garden bed, which I really do every day. Every day when I leave for work, I look in there and see how everything's going. I talk to everybody. And then every day when I come home, I look in there, see how everything's going, talk to everybody. And I looked under the netting, and there were peas.
Right. That's right. That's right. I mean, it's definitely a very therapeutic hobby. I know, especially like I'm not feeling too good today. I'm a little bit under the weather.
I know.
Yeah, I've been under the weather for like a couple of days and stuff. So it was pretty good to be around all those big leafy greens. And also good to eat them too, because they're nutritious, and and I enjoy adding that to part of my diet. It's something, eating something that you've grown, like you were saying, and knowing that you produce this, with your work and your labor and stuff like that. So and one of the conversations, I don't think we've gotten to that.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can play this, if it'll play for us, so we can see the evolution of growing a garden and how you can use an urban garden to grow a community.
Well, I mean, you mentioned some of that earlier by saying how we've given vegetables to, and the interest that our neighbors took into when we were putting the garden up and building the raised beds, and some of the neighbors who, didn't know what we were doing, and then they had, everybody offered their advice, and we had one neighbor who's the mayor of the neighborhood, and I mean, he saw me one day and called me over and said, "Y'all gonna put a net on top of that? Because these cicadas is coming around and they're gonna eat all your stuff up, So I told him, I said, "Well, Jackie knows what she's doing." I said, "I'm sure we got that covered." "Well, I know, because them greens are gonna die and they're not gonna look good." I said, "Sir, I said the greens are gonna die." I said, "Well, look." I said, she's been doing this for a while, and I said, I'm sure she knows what she's doing. So, I mean, it's just the thing that, as you stated earlier, about people just coming out. And I remember when we first started doing this, and I got to say this, is that the first thing we said was that we need to claim our space. Everybody talks about, the bad elements in certain neighborhoods, and, and relying on police, to ease out the so-called bad element, right? But you don't need the police for doing that. All we have to do is claim our own space. And so when we went out there and we started just building the raised beds and stuff, we noticed that other people started coming out. And the lady across the street, she started tending to her own garden. And so we saw the ripples effect, the ripple effect of when we claimed our space. Other people, we had another couple that have kids. They came out and their kids came out and they're running all around. So they were claiming their space.
Right.
And so, the idea is that when we claim our own spaces, that helps to keep, unwelcome elements out. That was the idea behind night out, when people used to just sit out, just so that, you got all eyes on deck. And, people who like to do dirty, people who like to, who's up to no good sometimes. They don't like a lot of eyes being around.
Exactly. They don't want to do any of that dirt in a community where people are out.
Right. Exactly.
Where it's more likely that people are going to be out and they can be seen by those people.
They can be seen, right? So so that was what we were trying to promote. And so once the vegetables started coming up, and neighbors would just coming to us and say, "Oh, I like those greens, girl. Look, I'm gonna come right on down here," and I'm, and then Jackie's like, "Okay, yeah." I mean, these neighbors usually don't talk to us, but again, it's like, okay, this is something that we felt was like you said, not just building the garden, but building the community. People starting to speak to what each other, starting to interact, starting to share what they have. You know what I mean? So that's what we plan on doing. We know if we want these things, as I stated in the video, then we have to we have to work towards those things.
Yeah.
We can't sit back and say, "Wow, we want this. We want a healthy community," and then we don't do anything to contribute to that or to build it. So it takes all hands on deck.
Exactly. So let me see if I can play the conversation that you are talking about. See if he'll neighbor kid who just graduated high school. Baba has been really cool. He calls him Mr. AB. He's been really cool, kind of, guiding and mentoring him and stuff. He sees Baba out here, he'll ask him for help with things, and Baba's like, yeah, I'll help, but here, you gonna come rake up these leaves. He'll rake up these weeds. So it's real cool. It's how you build community. You talk to your neighbors.
There has to be respect and community building. You have to put the principles of another, and then you have to water it with respect, cooperation, and love for community. Community isn't about just you. Community is about everybody. So when you think of community, you got to think about what type of community you want. And what type of community that you want to live in. And it's not just going to come because you wish it. It comes that you work towards it. And assume that everybody wants what you want too. So if everybody wants what you want, everybody wants to live in safe, productive, safe communities, and stuff like that, which most people want, then hey, you ain't gonna know that unless you get out there and talk to your neighbors, cooperate with your neighbors. Let's remember now, human beings are social creatures. So, community is a social or a social structure. So just like a garden, you plant the seeds, and then they'll grow. Building a community don't mean everybody got to believe what you believe. Building a community means that everybody don't have to fall in line with what you want to fall in line. That's a dictatorship. No, community means mutual cooperation, mutual respect, and that everybody has everyone's best interest at heart. And having everyone's best interest at heart doesn't mean that everybody got to follow what you believe or believe how you believe or those type of things. Folks can believe what they want to believe, as long as nobody's hurting each other. And you know what I mean? So that's what that means. We're not striving for dictatorships. We're striving for mutual respect community where everybody has a chance to feel accepted, loved, and that nobody feels that the community that they live in, that they can't get that dirt to support from those who are within their community. So, just like a garden. Luqmans Nation said community garden. Garden, you use that example to build your community.
Yep.
And that's how we do it.
That's right. Part of our dinner tonight. Let me pick up my cast-offs here. This is a pretty big bowl. I'm putting my feet here on the side of the bowl, just for scale, just so you can see how big the bowl is. All right, so that's a pretty big bowl of greens. These are the Tootsies. That's the bowl of greens. Interesting things about the harvesting of these vegetables and how you do it to keep these greens growing throughout the growing season. So this is our garden. We've got a couple of tomato plants that we're waiting to come in. We've got big old collard plants, some nice lettuce plants, heads of lettuce that we're gonna have for salad tomorrow. More collards. I really like collards. We really like collards. And this is our little bok choy patch here. I think this is an eggplant. I believe that is going to take a while to get some fruit, but you can already see the little fuzzy leaves coming in. So this is what a harvested bok choy looks like, stem looks like. You leave the base in the ground, and we'll see if more bok choy grows from that. And I planted a lot of black bok choy because I love this stuff. It's so delicious. You do the same thing with Chinese dragon cabbage, or as some people call it, dragon kale. It's all a part of the same family, the cabbage family. You do the same thing to harvest it. I'm going to grab a couple of leaves so you can see. So here is this big leaf on the side, and I'm going to pluck it from there. There you go. One big leaf. There's another big leaf there. And another big leaf. So we're going to have some nice dragon cabbage also in our leafy greens. So yeah, this is our first harvest from our little front yard raised garden beds. It's pretty bountiful. So cool.
Imagine how much you're going to have to pay a Giant for that. Oh, I forgot. Giant don't carry that.
Oh, that's right. You can't find Swiss chard at Giant. You can't find this special kind of cabbage at Giant. You have to grow it. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So yeah, folks, that's I finally got the video to work. I'm glad you liked the segment on how to harvest the leafy greens. I'm just learning that myself. I didn't know that you could do that with like bok choy and I knew that about collards, right? But I don't know why it just didn't like click in my mind that that's how you can harvest pretty much almost all leafy greens. So yeah, that's how you do it. If you got any leafy green, like we got a bunch of lettuce out there, and I think I didn't plant cabbage. We didn't plant any cabbage, did we?
No,
I don't know how we didn't plant cabbage, but I think we're gonna plant some in the backyard because we did a whole nother video about how we built the raised bed in the back that we still have to fill in for the summer crop that will grow into June, July, August, hopefully the beginning of September. So we're going to plant some late corn. We're going to plant some cabbage, some more collards, some broccoli, some vegetables that are winter hardy. They will last throughout the winter. And we're going to try to do a little greenhouse thing and see how that works. I mean, a lot of this is just kind of trial and error. But there's a lot of like institutional knowledge that I remember my grandmother doing.
Yeah, that's been passed down.
And we ordered some books on homesteading because we recognize where this empire is going.
Right.
You understand? We're reading the tea leaves. We're seeing how things are going. There may come a time much sooner than a lot of people are comfortable with where we're not going to be able to rely on going to the grocery store to get food all the time. And I'm not trying to be apocalyptic, but look, you always prepare for the worst. And people laugh at preppers, but when things go down, those people ain't gonna never have to leave their house. So you should be prepared for the worst that could happen in this area, right?
The old saying is, it's better be prepared and not needed than to need to be prepared and not be prepared. Right.
So look, well, we want to answer some questions. We want to try to answer some questions that you have about what we know about gardening. And here's one question that Sugar Booger asked that I think is a great question. Why the raised bed instead of just in the ground? What's the difference?
Oh, good question.
That's a really great question, because since we live in the city, the soil is not great. If you live in any like community in an urban area, you've got maybe 6 inches of topsoil, and then underneath that topsoil, I almost guarantee you, if you live in the city, is a bunch of rocks and clay and because mostly our communities are built over some other raised community that was knocked down and whatnot. So the soil in the ground, unless you are fortunate and you are in a place where you've got a good 12 to 16 inches of easily manipulated, rich, dark soil. I mean, you can take a shovel and dig down in it, pull it up, and you've got nothing but dark, rich soil and some worms and some roots from some dandelions. You're going to have to augment that soil with something. You can dig out the soil, and I did that for years in the backyard. I did that for years.
Very labor intensive.
Oh my God, it's so labor intensive. You have to do it every year. You're not going to get a great yield the first year you do it, because I guarantee you're not going to get all the rocks and the clay and stuff out. You have to add stuff like peat moss and I can't remember. There's another something that you add to like city soil that's full of clay to make it nutritionally suitable for seeds and transplants. So instead of doing all that every year, build a raised bed.
Yep.
So that,
and you get the type of soil, garden soil, and that way you can kind of guarantee that you're giving your seeds a better chance to grow. And I can tell you, being in the construction field, that a lot of housing developments, especially when we used to take dirt from the construction sites, and we would just take it to another construction site and use that as topsoil.
Right.
That's how they do it, y'all. I mean, they got one development, and all of that topsoil that they dig out for the foundation, all we do is just take it over to some other development that's being built, and they use that as topsoil. So that's one of the reasons why that it's best to try to get that nutritional soil, that garden soil that will allow the plants the proper nutrition and stuff. And a lot of weeds too are good, especially dandelions are very good in improving your soil. Jack and I, we've been really studying up on a lot of this stuff. And so you got the dandelions, and very, very great at improving soil that needs to be improved, like, nourished. And dandelions are good for that, and I've gotten into this whole thing with and I can oh man, I lost my train of thought.
You weren't into this garden stuff when you got here.
No, I wasn't.
But you've now gotten into like foraging.
Well, that's what I was gonna mention. Yeah. I've gotten into foraging now. I find that fascinating. I mean, I find something growing that looks weird, and I tell Jackie, I said, man, take a picture of that. Maybe somebody, and most of the time, you guys out there know what it is. I mean, we had some stuff like. I discovered what wild strawberries are. We have plenty of those around here. Wild strawberries and stuff, and all kind of just stuff that you can eat. And that knowledge is that knowledge is so important. I mean, not just for the times of apocalyptic thing though, but I mean, just to have that knowledge. The whole thing about this gardening thing, like you were talking about how it was passed down. What, pardon me, what a good way to instruct your children and teach your children respect for the land and respect for the dirt. Yeah. And so when you teach your children the respect for nature, the respect for dirt, and understand that we depend on this, And so, so we have to take care of this. Mm-hmm. And this education has to start very early. We do it by example. Mm-hmm. And, that's why, if you start a garden, if you have children or grandchildren like we do, get them involved. I mean, make that a learning experience for them.
Yeah, somebody mentioned, and Robert White III. Yeah, I have to look up the organization where I bought this T-shirt from. We got it in Philadelphia at Mumia's birthday rally, right. And I have to look up the name of the organization that was a solidarity organization supporting him. And I have to look up the name of the organization that I got it from, but I'll get it to you. Somebody, Del, excuse me, Del Sendero. Del Sendero made this great comment: lay down some compost like leaf grown in garden soil. This is one of the reasons why we chose to put a raised bed in the front yard this year, because people waste a lot of organic material that they think they're doing a good thing by, raking up leaves and putting them out in the special bags for the city to come take them away. Right. Organic material like leaves, the scraps of vegetables from your table, not all foods, not like bones and, scraps of meat. But eggshells. Absolutely can be used as compost. They can create compost. Now, we started a very small compost container with a little 7-gallon plastic container in the backyard, just to see how it would work out.
Right.
But we also have like an entire wooded area full of fallen leaves back there.
Right.
So we're going to try to get away with sneaking and building a huge compost pile in the woods in the back, because that is land that belongs to some government city agency.
Yeah, it was part of a military base.
Yeah,
and, so now nobody, since we've been calling to have them clean it up, now nobody owns it now.
Right, nobody owns it now. So since they don't want to take responsibility for cleaning it up, we're like, well, we're going to see what we can do to use it, for our advantage, but don't tell nobody. So, we're going to use some of those leaves.
Right. Well, here's another question from our good friend Lisa Catlett. Do you think it's too late to start a garden now?
Okay, that's a great question. Most vegetables take about 2 or 3 months to grow and produce fruit. There are some that take a lot longer, like tomatoes generally take like 3.5 months.
It might be a little too late to plant tomatoes, right?
I think it's too late to plant tomatoes from seed.
From seed, right?
Right. You can start you can plant, start a garden from seed, or you can go to, Lowe's or some garden supply store and get what's called starter plants.
Right. Which we did that, I think, last year.
Yeah, and we did it. We did it for the backyard raised bed also. There is no right or wrong way to start a garden. It doesn't matter if you start it from seed. It doesn't matter if you start it from a starter plant. The difference between starting it from a seed and a starter plant is that you can start a garden from seed way earlier.
Right.
We started the raised bed out front at the beginning of May.
Right.
With seed. Thank you so much, DL Sendero, for your sticky. We appreciate that. You can start if you're going to start from seed. Start after the last frost in your area. And that can be tricky, especially now with climate change.
Right.
But this means you're going to have to pay attention to the weather. But if you don't want to do all that, you can start with the starter plants because they came from seed. Somebody else just did that.
Right.
So you can go to what's the name of my favorite little site that I love to use. Let's see. It is let me see. Oldalmanac.com, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Oldalmanac.com.
Yep. Hold on. Let me give you the link. Nope, that's not it. And it actually is the website of the old almanac that's been around for, good grief, hundreds of years.
What was that? Ben Franklin, right? With the
Yeah.
first one, yeah.
Yeah. So, the Old Farmer's Almanac. There we go.
Old Farmer's Almanac.
Yep. So you can look this up. Look up when the last frost is on the Old Farmer's Almanac.com. They tell you how you can plant according to the sun or the moon, which some people do both. And so you can get a good idea of which vegetables you can plant in June. And there are some. There are plenty that you can plant. You can plant bok choy. Bok choy grows in 45 days. That was the first thing to come out there.
And especially like if you live in warmer states like California, places like that. I mean, you may have an extended growing season.
Exactly.
Than, the people in other states, because you don't get the frost like that, you know. So we've seen that. Somebody asked Jackie about GMO modified seeds and plants.
Yeah, I see this from Leona Coleman. So I think it was who asked the question about starting if it's too late to start. Lisa. So Lisa, I hope that answered your question. It's actually not too late for you to start your garden. You just need to know what to plant and you need to know how long it's going to take for those plants to mature, to know which vegetables and fruit to plant right now. You still have like 3 months of planting season on the East Coast in this zone.
Have we didn't plant any onions this year. Somebody asked about onions. So we haven't planted any onions, I don't believe, this year.
No, we didn't. I think, but we're going to. And I'm going to just see if it's, because I think onions are a kind of a cold hardy crop, I think. So I think we are going to plant some onions. If not onions, then shallots and leeks, which are all in the onion family. Yeah, I saw a recipe for some leeks that I really, really want to try.
Oh, yeah?
I know you're not crazy about it, but I'm gonna try it. But so, who asked about Leona Coleman, GMO modified seeds and plants? I'm so glad you asked that question, because that is the conversation that we're going to have on the morning show, the Remix Morning Show, next week on Tuesday, with a seed sovereignty agroecology activist in Kenya. And she is going to talk to us about the importance of using indigenous seeds, heirloom seeds, and sharing seeds, which the chemical companies that are not just Monsanto, but a whole bunch of companies that you and I probably have never heard of, and a few that we have, like BASF, don't want us to do, because they own the seeds.
I don't know how you own seeds, something that's, from nature, but I don't know how you own seeds. But the white man will always find a way.
When I talked to this sister, it was like, our little garden is way more political than we realize.
Yeah.
So
and speaking of seeds, right? Part of prepping is also to get different seeds and store them. And the reason why I say that, people don't understand, but in I think it's Denver. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's somewhere in Denver where every seed that is known to man is stored there in the case of some type of environmental collapse or nuclear war or something like that. And and so it allows the governments to be able to reforest and replant. So I remember there's a big ass warehouse somewhere in Denmark somewhere. But it contains every seed that's known to human beings, and it's just there. So so I wouldn't, in case of any type of major catastrophe, I wouldn't wait for them to feed me.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
That's a great point.
I wouldn't wait for them to feed
That
me.
is a great point.
I would store my own seeds.
That's why we need to have that. You're exactly right, Boscor. We need to have seed banks.
Right.
And we need to share seeds, and we need to save seeds. And this is an experiment that I did last year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why this is so important about the GMO seeds. We always talk about, genetically modified plants and fruit and vegetables. And we don't really kind of have a clear concept of what that means. And then I got to be honest, I don't entirely myself. But here's what I know what happens. Say you buy a tomato from the grocery store,
mm-hmm.
and you slice the tomato and you see, hey, there's seeds in the tomato. I should be able to grow something. I should be able to grow tomatoes from this slice of tomato that I bought from the grocery store. So you take the tomato slice and you put it in the ground. And I actually did this last year. And the plants do come up. The plants will grow from the seeds.
But no tomatoes.
That's right.
Yeah, no tomatoes.
That's what won't happen. Now, sometimes you might be able to get away with doing that and producing one season of plants. But if you get that, you won't be able to save the seeds that come from the fruit that you grow and produce anything from them, because the seed from the tomato that you bought from the grocery store has been genetically modified so that it cannot reproduce indefinitely.
Right.
That's the thing about genetically modified vegetables.
Right.
That's aside from like the chemicals that they put in them, it's that you can't use those seeds to grow your own crops and save those seeds to continue to grow your own crops.
They won't let you do it.
They would, because the chemical companies own the seeds.
Yep.
So this is why we have to buy from, and I've done it. I've gone to like Lowe's and the dollar store and gotten seeds from the little seed,
mm-hmm.
Display thing. We have to be careful that we're buying seeds that are indigenous, that we're sharing seeds with people, that we're getting seeds from seed banks. We're getting heirloom seeds, non-GMO seeds, and that, since we are Black, we are supporting Black companies.
Right.
And they exist. Here's one right now that I like a lot. They are Black Girls with Gardens, and you can get seeds from them. There's another heirloom company where some friends of ours sent us some seeds from.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big company, Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. Let me pop their link in here. Yep, for you. And I yes, we have gotten seeds from Black Girls with gardens. Excuse me, they're on their way. He didn't know. So so yeah, the whole GMO and genetically modified seed thing is incredibly important. If you are buying vegetables from the grocery stores and thinking that you're gonna save those seeds and grow some,
mm-hmm.
you might get away with it for one season, but those seeds are not going to be any good for repeated seasons, because that's the way they've genetically modified the seeds. And in Africa, when we talk to this Sister Tuesday, she's going to talk about how the chemical companies are penalizing African peasants.
Mm. No, they're doing the same thing in India too.
Right, for not buying the chemical company's seeds. Incredibly important. That was a great question that someone asked. So let's see what else we got in here. What other questions have people? Somebody asked about fruit trees.
I have a fruit tree. I have a date tree in the back.
It's a fig tree.
Yeah, I have a fig tree in the back. That's tougher than I thought it would be. I mean, it's been through some stuff, but that tree is, it's thriving though.
Yeah. The thing with fruit trees is like you have to have you have to dig very deep.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have at least, I think like 2 feet where you can put a good root ball, or like I said, some really, really good soil.
Right.
So yeah, we don't have fruit trees yet. Gonna work on that too.
But we have wild fruit trees around here.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the blackberry trees.
Yes. The blackberry bushes all over the place.
We got blackberry bushes all over the place. Other fruit trees that I gotta make sure that I can eat them before I start just throwing them in my mouth. But and please don't go by that old adage of if you see an animal eating it, you can eat it. Don't rely on that.
No, please. don't because animals' digestion are adapted to what they can and cannot eat.
And the squirrel in your neighborhood may just be crazy. You don't want to follow that squirrel.
Hey, we've seen squirrels munch out on chicken legs. So, Thanks, Leah. She said you can tell if the food is GMO, conventionally grown, or organic by the SKU number on the produce. If it starts with a number 9, if it's organic. If it's a number 8, it's GMO. And if it's number 4, it's conventional. I did not know that. Thank you so much for telling us that. That is good information. So let's see what else we want to say about growing vegetables. Oh, the sharing part.
Yeah. Yep. Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring.
Right.
And sharing is also proven to be a really interesting community building.
Right. And it's also not American. So you're actually by sharing what your harvest, you're actually acting against the American instinct to hoard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there was no way we were going to grow all that food.
Oh my God.
And just keep it all to ourselves. First of all, we would never be able to leave the house because we'd be in the bathroom all the time.
Oh yes. Yep.
Eating all those leafy greens. But we set out to put the garden in the front yard because, this whole middle class thing in this country with having a house with a lawn is so wasteful.
For aesthetics.
Just for aesthetics. Yeah. And all you're going to do is cut the grass, which and kill the weeds, which drives off the pollinators.
Yep.
And that doesn't help the soil. So we just decided, that piece of ground, first of all, we pay taxes on that piece of lawn, so we can do with it what we want. So why not have it be productive?
Right. And I mean, look, in North Korea, they use every bit of arable land. They call it. They use. They use every bit of it. So I mean, if it's going up the mountain, if it's wherever it is, they use it to grow food, for their population. So that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, and the side effect of that of doing that, and it's like a really, I didn't think about how controversial it would be. Like people were like, why would you put it on your front yard? That's not where you put a garden. I'm like, we pay taxes on this joint. We can put this garden wherever we want. But it's something we're just not used to.
That's it. We're not used to doing it. Most people, for the most part, people are uncomfortable seeing something different.
Yeah.
And so, that's the reaction we were getting. It was like, that's not how you're supposed to do it. You're not supposed to do it this way. You're not supposed to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, we're doing it this way. We're doing it that way,
Right.
And, so you just have this thing of being wedded to tradition,
mm-hmm.
And not looking at the empowering part of it,
right.
And that's what we were trying to explain to our neighbors. Like, this is empowering, it empowers the community to be able to produce your own food.
Mm-hmm.
It empowers the community to be able to feed each other.
Right.
That's empowering. I mean, and we don't really, we don't really look at that, those type, we talk about these big ideas of community and empowerment and stuff. And we rarely talk about the little things that empower us or the things that we can do as individuals to empower the community. And you get enough of us together and, this is nothing new. People have been doing it. But my point being is, we don't spend enough time in our circles talking about how do we empower. I would love to see, urban gardeners, just being part of a community building group to go around and encourage neighbors, to just take over land.
Right.
These lots that the city don't want to give up, just take it over. Just plant stuff there and have a community garden there. Don't even ask permission, just do it. We have this park behind us, this wooded area behind us that either belong to the Park Service or DC government or even the U.S. Army. Somebody owns it.
Yeah.
But nobody's claiming it. So you know what? So then look, we're going to claim it, and we're going to go out there and plant some things back there. Now, as soon as we said that, we had our neighbors, there's helicopters that fly all over the sky, and
checking out what you do
and what you're doing and all this other. Well, fine. If they see us planting some stuff, they want a tomato or two,
right.
Yeah, right. But we have to stop being afraid like that. When it comes to building our community, we don't need permission to do that.
Right.
And that's the thing. We don't need their permission to build community. We don't need their permission to feed ourselves. We don't need their permission to do empowering and beneficial for us and our family members and our extended community. We don't need their permission to do that. Because they ain't going to do nothing. When you're asking their permission, all they're going to do is find a way how to charge you for it.
Exactly. They'll tell you, no, you can't do it unless you,
Right.
So, you brought up something that I think Boscore 777 pointed out. And somebody else, Uncle Brother. What's going on, Uncle Brother? Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you again. Raised in the chat. Boscore said that, we have to be careful because somebody could get sick from, food that they get from our garden in the front. Well, okay. I look at it this way. When I go to the farmers.
If they voluntarily take it, then it's on them.
Right. I go to if I go to the farmer's market, I don't know those people.
Right.
They grew their food in their farm somewhere. If I get sick from something, from some collard greens that I buy from the brother at the farmer's market, do I sue him? Can you
trace it back to him?
Can I trace it back to him?
Right.
That's the kind of thing. And I understand that people are sensitive to different things, but we stress that we don't use chemicals on our food. We haven't. But we do let people know, look, we've grown this here. If you would like to have some, you're welcome to it. But look, so we get that people are weird like that, and we have to be careful. But I just feel like that's a risk that people are taking, and I don't even want to frame it that way because I don't feel like it's a risk. It's no less of it's a much less of a risk that you're taking going to McDonald's and trusting that the folks who are making your Big Mac are actually following safety protocols.
Yeah, washing their hands.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So you can see what's going on in the front yard. And then the other issue that Uncle Brother raised was that it's illegal to grow food in your front yard in some states.
Yeah, I think it's like that in Jersey. I think there was an issue when my mother was alive, and they some neighbors wanted to plant something in their front yards, and I think that the city ordinances would allow it. So yeah, that's. Again, if you're planning on these things, just make sure that you check out what the rule. Because Jackie and I was going to have a chicken coop until we found out that DC wouldn't let us.
They won't let you have a chicken coop.
Yeah, we were getting ready to say, look, one of our Facebook friends gave us the info on how we can cheaply raise chickens in our yard and stuff. And I was already online looking for a small chicken coop that I could buy and put out in that yard and start putting some chickens in it. And then we started looking at the laws in DC, and I couldn't do it. It was
no chickens.
No chickens.
Yeah,
right.
well, you can have them. You just have to get permission from your neighbors to have them.
These neighbors don't even talk to us,
so they're not.
We wasn't even going to knock on their door and say, "Look, can we have chickens?" and all this other kind of stuff, because they would probably just say no out of spite. But yeah, so it's best to just check out what your local jurisdiction says on these things, and then Just be clear, so we don't want anybody to get in trouble.
Right. And you know what? I just kind of feel like if the intent here, like Ricky Ryan is pointing out, and then we're gonna close on this, I think. If this is a community garden, then the intent is to build community in a way where struggles don't involve outside parties like the courts.
That's true.
Now I get that there are some litigious people who would, love to call the cops and the courts on people whenever they run into a problem. But the purpose of us putting this raised bed in the front of the house, in the front yard, so everybody could see it, was so that everybody could have access to it, so that it could spark conversations with our neighbors, so that we could share with people.
But it's done that.
Right. So that the people, there are 2 daycares in the neighborhood.
Right.
So that maybe these folks can bring the babies by, and maybe we can help the kids learn how to garden, do exactly what you said. Introduce children to the idea of growing their own food and teaching them how to do it. So, yeah, I understand that there are risks that we take with doing that, with opening ourselves to the wider community. But isn't that how communities struggle to become communities? And isn't that how you challenge these ridiculous laws that stand in the way of people being self-sufficient and of a people expressing and exercising their self-determination? I think that's absolutely what you do. So, somebody reports us and they're like, hey, these people are breaking the law by having a garden, growing food in their front yard. Okay, fine us. And then we're going to fight.
Right. And also, I think that, one of the things that we had planned on not wasting an opportunity for political education, too. You take these things as, as far as a community garden, and, you still have the opportunity to offer some type of political education to explain to people why this is so important, and explain to people, the empowering aspect of it, and self-determination and all these other things. So you get, you have a chance to impart some political education too.
Right.
So maybe that person who gets sick, because look, we've had incidences in our neighborhood, y'all, where, where because of, the way that our neighbors felt about us, they didn't take it to the courts. A lot of it involved our dog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, and folks, we're generally pretty well respected in our neighborhood. And so, a lot of our neighbors was like, that dog, but, no one has threatened to sue us. And our dog has done some damage to some other dogs on the street.
Because he doesn't like other dogs.
And so, it's a lot of it is what kind of relationship you have with your neighbors and with your community. You're always going to find some scumbag lawyer out there. No offense to lawyers, but you're always going to find that one lawyer who would sue a toddler.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
For not putting their toys up or something like that.
Right.
But for the most part, I think that in building the community that we were talking about, that's the type of community that we start to build, and that comes. You have to have political education with that, So you don't stop at just the gardening part. Engaging your neighbors is also engaging them in the political education phase, and and nobody. I mean, not preaching to them and not beating them over the head,
right?
But we know how to impart knowledge, in a way that people can receive it without feeling that they're being beat down.
Yeah, I mean, and just. The whole discourse around food safety laws and then all this kind of stuff. We ain't cooking food for nobody. And honestly, if these are the issues that people who have community gardens, if this is the kind of stuff you're going to hold, over people's heads for growing food, then community gardens shouldn't exist anywhere at all in this country. And we know that they exist. So that's a weird. I don't know what that's about, but okay.
No, but I do think that it's important that was raised, because I mean, you don't know the people you really, you don't really know the people you live around, and I mean, that's a real situation. That it could become a real situation. So I mean, I don't want to just dismiss it, but those type of real world incidences can happen,
Yeah.
You know, and so you
well,
know,
those people can't have none of our vegetables.
no,
Man. How about
I mean,
that?
no, and you know, and it's just to the point where I don't know, you know, how you can go about 100% preventing something like that. You probably can't, but I really think that it has a lot to do with your relationship with your neighbors and stuff. You know, I mean, you know, make them love you. You know, make them love you.
And I mean, that's the whole point behind building community in this way. You know, yeah, it's a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of reasons we decided to do this. It would be fun. It's our property. We can do do with it whatever the hell we want. You know, we wanted to share something with our neighbors. We wanted to use it as an opportunity to expand political education.
Yeah.
We love seeing the kids running around, and wouldn't it be great if we could get the kids to, you know, play around in the garden a little bit, you know, when they're going, you know, when they go on their walks, you know, from the daycares, and man, what if, and this was the biggest thing that we thought about when we're talking about it. What if other people in the neighborhood saw what we were doing and said, hey, I'd like to do that too.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what we're going for here. And, you know, aside from just really loving to garden and loving to grow our own food and to grow, you know, the reward from eating what we grow with our own hands, we really hope that this would be an opportunity to build community. And I think, as you said, it's working out
like
that way. So you're not feeling good there.
Yeah,
I'm feeling good. I know, and it's been a long week, and I'm a little achy myself because of the rain. So,
but I want to shout out some people in the chat.
Oh yeah,
Uncle Brother, the Bobs, Ricky Ryan. Let me say something about Ricky Ryan.
What are we saying about Ricky?
That last what did we see Ricky Ryan on with the last Dope Intellectual?
Oh yeah, when she was when they were doing the thing about Keith Davis Jr. That you got to watch that episode.
Yo, let me tell y'all something.
Last week's episode.
Ricky Ryan's a beast. I mean, what did I say? What did I say to you? I was like, last Dope Intellectual. I said Ricky Ryan kind of dope too, because she was doing, you know, she was hanging, you know. So I was like, wow.
That's that revolutionary passion that we love with the people that we, you know, that we've come in contact with, and she's definitely one of those folks that we've been blessed to know.
Yep. So yeah, so anyway, speaking of Ricky Ryan, she said, how was that lettuce on your sandwich, Jackie?
The lettuce on the sandwich was delicious. It was so delicious that I had a whole salad from the lettuce today, and it was amazing. It was really, really yummy. And yes, I will save some bok choy for you.
Yeah. I mean, Ricky, only you know, you ain't that far, so you know. but the thing of it is that you know, we really enjoy doing this, and you know, we're going to expand our foray into I won't say prepping, but into self-determination, and, you know, stuff like that. We're going to get into other stuff. So
yeah, we are. Yeah. And Leah, we were going to do the herb walk tomorrow, but after this rain, I don't know if we want to be traipsing through the wood and the mud. And he's not feeling well, so I'm not so sure we're going to get out tomorrow. Yeah. But yeah, please keep us in the loop for those kind of things, because we really do love that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Look, y'all, this has been really cool, and we're really, really glad that you enjoyed this chat, because honestly, we were like, can we do something not heavy today?
Right. Especially after what we just went through last week, you know, with homophobe.
Oh my God, that was just like,
yeah. Ooh. So you know, so we were just so glad to just be able to just, you know, just do something, you know, something different.
Yeah, something different, something light, something fun, but still revolutionary. I gotta shout out the All African People's Revolutionary Party in New Mexico, who they are, and this is Onyesanwu Chatoye. She and her AAPRP chapter, they are building their community garden.
Great.
And it's so neat because they have no running water in their garden, but they use clay pots that are buried in the ground so that you know, that's surrounding the plants. So it's like an underground irrigation system where the clay pots, I forget what it's called, but the clay pots directly water the roots. Just amazing stuff that's being done around, you know, community gardens, food sovereignty, you know, self-determination. Look, we got to get ourselves free. We got to feed ourselves. None of it's going to happen overnight, but we sure can have a lot of fun and grow some delicious things in the meantime. So many more updates to come on the Luqman Nation Revolutionary Garden. We're really glad that you all like this show.
Yep. So stay tuned, and tomorrow, Waters of Healing, and we promise you, ain't gonna be like last week. No. So Waters of Healing, and you know, just, you know, if you missed any of the streams this week, you know, you can catch them over the weekend. A lot of good stuff. Again, Last Up Intellectuals coming up after this. You know, so look, you know, you guys been hanging out with Black Power Media. If you haven't joined Black Power Media, join it, subscribe, like. You know, tell your friends about it. We're growing. We got some great things planned for the future, and you know, and if you've been rocking with us and haven't joined, what's your issue?
Exactly.
You know, you should be a member by now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
sound like Alonji.
I know.
I don't know what are you doing. You know, you should be a member by now. You know, sitting back in the cut, man, with that bullshit. You should be a member.
Oh, smoking my drink.
Yeah.
So anyway, with that, y'all, we thank you so much. And as the eternal chairman Fred Hampton used to say, peace if you're willing to fight for it, and we got to fight for it. So good night, y'all.
I had them all long before I dial up. How they came and they on top and I'm a mile up. I had them all long before I dial up. How they came and they on top and I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in, but don't you dare give up now. Poe believed in me, pull up through some bucks down. Todd told the valet pull the truck round. Push the line after we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this? Then booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. And name the best from my region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on, you never come to mind. Rapping like your Spotify, tap you rappers compromise. Yeah, no need to panic, just paint the canvas. If you can feel the static, you're too close, find your balance. Embed the revolution for they prohibition bandwidth. Blood trickle from the lead to see what's planted. I had them all line before I dial up.